Hey, this is Seth Parnell, minister of the Portia Church of Christ, and this is episode 198 of the Midweek Bible Study. Hope that you are doing well. Hope things are going your way. Appreciate you being here with us tonight as we're going to take another brief look at what the scriptures can tell us and see what it has to say. Hope you, like I said, hope you've been having a wonderful day. It wasn't too bad weather-wise. It's pretty good, and you're getting out. At least it was in Jonesboro and in Paragould today. So hopefully where you're at, it was good you as well. And you maybe hope you got some productive things done, and we're able to have a good day. Appreciate you being here with us tonight. And I also want to mention Jackie Henry, who's here, big supporter of us. She's in the hospital right now, and so they so be sure to think of them and remember them next time you go to pray. But we're going to get started here tonight, and so that we can see, like I said, see what this has to say. But if you're in the local area, hopefully you can come join us, sometime. Like right now, we are located at 307 South Jackson Street in Portia, Arkansas. Right now, we are meeting at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, and then 5 o'clock on Sunday night, and 6 o'clock on Wednesday night. And so hopefully you can join us, one of those times. And also, we are going through the book of Acts on Wednesday. And then on Sunday morning, we're going through Ezra and Nehemiah. So if you're interested in either one of those studies, feel free to come and see us. And also, we've got our area-wide singing coming up in September. It's the second Saturday in September. So be on the lookout for that. So that'll be on a Saturday night at 6 o'clock. And so come see us and come join with us in that regard if you're able to make it. Also, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send those our way as well. And we'd love to hear from you, love to know what you have to say. We're going to be a little bit brief here tonight, but we'll certainly take a look at a few things here in Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14. And we're going to see this short little case in which Jesus has an encounter with the Pharisees. And it's going to be some of the experts, some of the Pharisees who would give Jesus a lot of grief, during his time. And so they are going to be, they're going to try to kind of get you under, Jesus's teaching. But he was always very good at making a point to use, illustrations, to use your things in order to, get across to his point. He wouldn't always just say, this is how it is, and list, some straight facts. But he would often, use more illustrative things in order to get across to his point. As you know, Jesus, taught you in many parables. If you can probably recall, many parables that come to your mind, and things that mean a lot to you, and parables, that are very, have very powerful meanings, to them. You can probably think of those. Sometimes he would, point out something, as he's going to do here in this case. He's going to point out an instance and, show how that illustrates, this point that he is, getting at. And he's going to use that on several occasions. So we're going to take a look at here in Luke chapter 14. But first, we want to say hi to Donna and Vonda. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope everything is going good your way. Appreciate you guys being here. We got Kathy is here. Hope that you are doing well. Appreciate you being with us. And we got Cheryl as well. Hope that you are having a wonderful day. Appreciate you being here with us as well. But here in Luke chapter 14, starting verse 1, it says, "On occasion, when Jesus was going to the house of the leader of the Pharisees to eat a meal on the Sabbath, and they were watching him closely. And so this kind of sets the scene for what we're studying here. Jesus was going to the house of one of the leaders of the Pharisees on the Sabbath. And he is going to share a meal with some of these people who were causing him a lot of grief and were going to cause him even more grief. Eventually, they were going to be the people that would put Jesus to death. And Jesus probably knew what the future held, but still, he went to share a meal with them here on the Sabbath. And as you know, kind of culturally, the Sabbath was kind of like a Sunday for us. It was the day dedicated to God, dedicated to rest, dedicated to to serving God. And so just how like our Sunday traditionally is, as we meet on the first day of the week, they rested on the seventh day. And so this was a special time. And so he is going to share this meal with the leader of the Pharisees. And you kind of think, if you knew what Jesus knew, if you knew somebody was going to be harmful to you or hurt you in the future, how might you react to an invitation such as this? Would you go and eat with them? Would you speak kindly to them? Or would you be harsh? Would you push them away? Would you say, I know what you're going to do in the future, and I don't want anything to do with you? Jesus, he knew what was going to happen in the future, but yet he still goes and he still shares this meal with them. And it shows the character that Jesus had, and how even with his enemies, even with people who intended nothing nice, but everything negative towards him, he still shared this time with them, and still wanted to teach them. And so that's of course a lesson for us, as Jesus would later say on, don't return evil for evil, but return evil with good. Return evil that people give you with good, so that in the end you may show their evil deeds and they can realize the mistake that they made. And so this is kind of what Jesus is living out. One of the things that Jesus did during his ministries, he always lived out what he taught. Jesus never taught one thing and did another, but he always lived out what he taught. And he's here doing that very same thing. But it also says that they were watching him closely. Now, if I was in a room with Jesus, if I was there with him, I would be watching him closely as well. But not for the same reason that they were watching him. I would want to hear everything that he said. I would want to know everything that he did. I would want to learn as much as I could with my time there with him. But that's not why the Pharisees were watching him closely. They wanted to find a reason in order to criticize Jesus, to destroy his reputation, to be able to put him down in any way that they could. That's why they were watching him closely. They were just waiting for Jesus to make one mistake, one slip up, so that they could kind of pounce on him and they could show just how awful of a person Jesus is. And they could maybe get public support in order to chase Jesus out of town. That's what they wanted to do. So that's why they were watching him more as like a wild animal stalks prey. That's kind of like how they were watching him, not to learn, but to wait for an opening so that you could pounce. And so Jesus has a lot of eyes on him, but still he goes there on the Sabbath day. And so in verse 2 it says, just then in front of him there's a man who had a demon. And Jesus asked the experts in the law and Pharisees, is it lawful to cure people on the Sabbath or not? And so there's this man who is sick. He has this condition that he's dealing with, this condition that caused him a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain. And Jesus, of course, knows that he can heal this person. He knows that he can, give this person a complete, clean bill of health. But yet he poses this question to the experts in the law. These would be people who had studied the law of Moses, who probably knew Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy like the back of their hand. These were people who spent a lot of hours, poring over, the law. They asked them and the Pharisees. He poses this question. It's an interesting question. He says, "Is it lawful to cure people on the Sabbath or not?" They, according to their interpretation of the Sabbath, if you go back to when it was established, when the Sabbath day was put in place, and fast forward to the time of Jesus, you can see a pretty big distinction between those two. They had kind of altered and twisted and changed the meaning of the Sabbath day to something that it was not intended to be. They had become so restrictive of what you could do on the Sabbath day that even people who were doing good, they prevented them from doing it because they said, you cannot do that on the Sabbath day. That's violating, the Sabbath. As you know, this is not the only time in which they're going to get on to Jesus, on this subject. It's going to happen a couple other occasions as well. But he asked them, is it lawful, to cure people on the Sabbath? Is that something that is okay? Because you think about it, serving people, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's a good thing. Giving somebody, healing, giving somebody, freeing somebody from pain, is that a good thing? Oh, that's a very good thing. But is doing something good on the Sabbath, a violation of that? And it says that they, in verse 4, that they were silent. They couldn't answer Jesus because they could either say, well, no, it's not permitted. This man just needs to suffer and wait. Or they could say, well, yes, you can do it and violate their own teaching. And so they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. And this is probably why Jesus asked this question. And so he asked them, is this lawful to cure people on the Sabbath or not? And they were silent. You stump somebody when they don't know what to say, when they are completely silent, when they don't have any words to put out. They're thinking and they don't have an answer. And so Jesus, instead of waiting for an answer after they were silent, says, so Jesus took him and healed him and sent him away. And so instead of waiting for an answer, Jesus takes this man, he heals him, and then he sends him away. And so in the eyes of some, he may have violated the Sabbath. In the eyes of others, he may have not. But Jesus is going to put this in perspective here at the end. And he's going to kind of challenge them with what he has to say. Because is it lawful to cure people on the Sabbath? And then here in verse 5, it says, then he said to them, if one of you has a child or an ox that's fallen into a well, will you not immediately pull it out on the Sabbath day? And they could not reply to this. These were experts. These weren't just your average person walking down the street. These were people who knew the law like the back of their hand. And then Jesus asked them this question, and first they are silent, and then when Jesus makes this point, they cannot reply. They have nothing to say. Out of all that study, of all that knowledge, they have nothing to say. And so he says, if one of you has a child and they, fall into a pit or fall into a well, you're not going to say, well, good luck down there. We'll come and pull you out, tomorrow. You're going to get that child to safety. You're going to protect that child. You're going to do whatever you can in order to rescue that child. And it even says with an ox, if an ox is in trouble, you're not going to ride him off, but you're going to do what you can in order to save him. And so the compassion for these people was something that was greater, than what they had twisted, the Sabbath day into being. He says there is a lot of meaning, there's a lot of importance on being compassionate on people, on serving people, on looking after people. I guess Christianity is so much more than just a person avoiding sin or trying to be faithful in themselves. But to be a Christian, as God has called us to be, we have to be someone who affects the lives of others, who serves others, who looks out for others, who has compassion on others. That's something that we have, to do. if you're someone who is just kind of, you know, just, keeping to yourself and just, being someone who's trying to go through this Christian walk, just by yourself, you're not going to be pleasing to God, with that. We have to be someone who affects, the lives of other people. We have to be someone who is compassionate. And that doesn't mean you have to be, a social butterfly. It doesn't mean that you have to, be an extrovert where you're talking to people all the time and doing all of that. That's not, what this means. But it means that your faith, the strength of your faith is in part, not completely so, but in part is dependent upon your service, to others. And so in small ways, big ways, everything in between, find ways to have compassion, on a person, to be someone who treats them, with, kindness, and you could take this line of thinking, too far. There is an extreme to as far as this line of thinking, goes. You could say, well, as long as I'm, compassionate to someone, as long as I'm nice to someone, then, anything is permitted. You can do, anything. You could do, the worst, sin, imaginable. But as long as you're being kind to someone, then you're pleasing to God. That's not what we're saying here, at all. God still calls us to a standard. He still calls us to righteousness. He still have things that we have to do. But if you're someone who is in a position, to help somebody, in a position to, even if it's just, saying hello to someone, checking up on them, trying to, encourage them, even if it's something as small as that. We have to be that as a Christian. We have to look out for one another. That's something that the Pharisees and the Sadducees had completely failed at. They completely thrown away. They would let a person suffer. They would degrade a person. They would cast out a person in a heartbeat just to keep one small, legalistic tenet, of their law. They had completely lost compassion. They completely lost kindness. And Jesus knew this. And so that's why he makes this point. And so we can't get so caught up in our own pursuit of avoiding sin that we forget to treat people with kindness and compassion. That has to be a part of our faith as well. And Jesus, tried to communicate to them and get them, to understand. And so Jesus, knew that they were watching him. He went out there and he knew that they were going to look for an avenue of attack. But instead, he uses this opportunity to teach them about the value of kindness, the value of compassion, and how it's so important, for us. And it's obvious, the stance that Jesus took. He took and he healed this man, and he, gave him. It doesn't give us the details of the healing, but you can imagine the joy that man, had. He may have been dealing with that condition for years, and Jesus, one Sabbath day with Jesus, and he is, healed, and he is free. How wonderful is it to think about, that we serve someone who in just one afternoon, one evening, one encounter with him, and your life can be completely healed. That's something that is, pretty, special. And so they would not have any way in order to discredit Jesus at this time, because even the experts, could not, reply to what he had to say, and to the point that he was making. And so that's just what I want to reinforce to us here tonight, to be someone who is aware of our responsibility for compassion, our ability to show kindness, and how that's something that is pleasing to God, and how that's something that is such a big part, of our life. And so if you want to grow in your faith, if you want to be someone who matures and keeps growing in your faith, this is a big part of it. You got to learn how to take that faith and not just internalize it, but use it to affect the lives of other people with kindness, with compassion, with service, doing what we can in order to make their walk a little better, a little easier. Because sometimes this narrow road gets pretty difficult, and we need each other. We need the kindness of others in order to get through. And so you can be that for others, and hopefully somewhere down the line, somebody can be that, for you. And so hopefully that's an encouragement for you here tonight. I want to say hi to Misty. Hope that you are doing well. Hope everything is going your way. Appreciate you stopping by here with us tonight as well. That's where we're going to kind of wind down here, but we'll be back next week for another episode. And so hopefully you can join us then. It'll be episode 199. It'll be up next week. But until then, I said this is kind of a brief episode, but we'll look forward to what the future can hold. And so, like I said, we're always here at 7:00 on Thursday night. And so please feel free to come see us if you have any suggestions for verses or your topics to cover. Then please feel free to send those our way as well. We might be planning to do like a question and answer episode in the future, and so if you have any questions, then and about biblical things, then feel free to send those our way as well. And we might put an episode together, get some people smarter than me on here, and maybe examine those a little bit. But until next time, I hope you can go out and be the light of the world and glorify God in everything that you do. I'll catch you next time.